I would like to introduce Anthony Trimino, the future governor, and his son, Christian Trimino.
Awesome. Well, God is good, and I feel so excited to be here to interview my dad. This is a very special. I mean, I have conversations with him like crazy, but never like this. So this is quite
Not
the
this
experience.
many people watching.
Usually it's just us in the car ride talking about life. Obviously, I know you. You're my dad. You're my best friend. You're my mentor. You're my boss.
He has to say these things.
Sometimes I wish you weren't some of those, but it's okay. Yeah. Mostly just my boss.
Yeah, always your father, never your boss.
Always my dad, and always my best friend. And so I'm super honored to be here. This is the moment that we have been praying about, and it's so cool to take a step back and to look around and see all the amazing people here that came out to support our cause. And so I just feel awesome. Thank you that I even get to do this. So that wasn't on script, but I'll go back to script. I put together a list
Real fast, and I'm honored to have you here. This was intentional. I felt like it would be a great opportunity for him to gather a series of questions that I know you guys are going to want to know. Other people have asked me things that he knows intimately about me, and some questions that he peppered in there that I don't know. But I wanted him to be here because my entire family is represented here today, just in case you don't know, and I'll get to it in a second. But I'm so blessed to have a family that is so supportive of what we're doing and what God is doing. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome. So we'll get started. As I mentioned, I know...
Me? Oh, for me? Oh, the light apparently is... I mean, I know you need one too, so... Can we share, or is it like... Here, I'll share. We've shared more than a napkin, trust me. All right.
Awesome. So I'll jump into it. Obviously, I mentioned, right, that I have the luxury of knowing you as my dad and my father and my boss and my friend. But for those people who are here today and for those people who will watch this online in the future who don't know you, how would you like to introduce yourself? Can you give us a quick little background of who you are?
Sure. My mom is here today. I don't know where she's at. Raise your hand. I'm sure you've all met her. She's the one grabbing pictures of everybody. So I'm 50% Cuban, 50% Mexican, and 100% American, and that's. My mother ended up in California by way of Montana. My father ended up in California by way of communist Cuba. So that's a little bit about my background. I'm born and raised in Southern California. I was born in Torrance, California. Spent some time in Long Beach, La Puente, West Covina, Azusa, but most of my years in Downey, so not too far from here. I'm married for 24 years to Jennifer, sitting here. We've been together 26. She was 17, I was 19. I took her to her high school prom. I'm proud of that story, by the way. It's an incredible thing. So I consider us high school sweethearts in a way. We have 5 amazing children. One of them is here, Christian, my oldest. Yeah. Well, actually, Zach is my oldest. So that's Zach at the DJ booth right there.
DJ Von D.
So Christian has offered his services by way of interviewing. Zach is a DJ. He's much more than a DJ, but he offered his DJ services today. Elijah, where's Elijah? Elijah's right here. Yeah. He's my middle son. He's helping to run the campaign, this event, a lot of the stuff that gets posted, a lot of the communication that goes out. Him, Sal, and Armet are working on that, so he's been pivotal to a lot of this happening. My son, Nico. Where's Nico? Nico, yeah. You won't see Nico a lot because Nico will oftentimes be found in a closet, in a room, on his knees, praying to God. He has been upstairs this whole time in one of the conference rooms just asking the Spirit to move today. He's probably over there doing the same thing. He's very bashful and shy, but he's an amazing kid. And then my daughter is right in front of him, Cameron. 14 years old. She's an incredible young lady, question writer, and she helped at the front today. You might have met her. Aside from that, I'm an entrepreneur. So I started this company 20 years ago in a small little 200 square foot office in Downey, California, no bigger than the conference room up front, actually the podcast room, really. I built that company over the next 20 years to be what Inc. magazine has just considered one of the fastest growing privately held companies in America 2 years in a row. I'm a devout Christian and newly added to the gubernatorial list of candidates. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, thank you. So I get to see a different side of you that growing up I never got to see, right? I got to see the father figure, and I got to see you as a husband to my mom, right? And as I've matured, I've always wanted to be more like you. And I now have the privilege of working here at TRAFFIK, and I get to see the other side of you as a business owner, right? And as you mentioned, you're a successful business entrepreneur. With all that success that you've seen, I guess a question that comes up a lot is, why are you doing this?
Sure. And I find myself asking that question every single day. But I'm immediately reminded at times like this when I see all of these faces. When I hear the stories about what's happening in our state, I'm reminded of why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I was called to do it. Quite simply, I answered a call because it doesn't benefit me in one way to be doing what I'm doing. But I just feel so compassionate about our state, our people. I'm doing it because I believe that we're in a spiritual battle. This isn't about politics. Trust me, I knew that this was going to be about God, but I had no clue how little it was going to be about politics. I'm doing this because I feel like we're in a battle for our souls, our soil. I feel like our churches have been attacked, our families have been attacked, our businesses have been attacked. I feel like our freedom of speech is being attacked. And I feel like it would be so much easier for me to just pick up and leave. And I contemplated it for a long time. And I'm doing this because someone needs to stay and fight. Someone needs to be the tip of the arrow. And I felt like God was calling me. I said yes. And I'm doing it because I truly believe that we need to liberate California. My man.
My man.
All right.
All right. So, being in advertising, right? I kind of want to stay on that topic for a second. Being in advertising, a lot of people automatically assume it has to do with retail, or it has to do with automotives or some type of beauty or fashion. But your client list is very unique, and it's allowed you to continue to grow the way that you're growing. What about your unique client list gives you a competitive advantage against some of the other candidates in the race?
When I think about the question that I ask God a lot, because I know the why I'm doing this, but I often am left with trying to understand the how part of it. And when I think about how's this all going to happen, how we're going to make this work, He reminds me of the mosaic of my life, all the things that have happened to me and transpired over the course of my life that equipped me for this time. So when I talk about getting to Sacramento and some of the things I'll do from a business perspective specifically, I run an ad agency, and like Christian said, most ad agencies, they look for the cosmetic, automotive, the beauty, retail. Those are the sexy parts and industries of the ad world. But for the last 20 years, we've been focused on technology, education, energy, and healthcare. Coincidentally, all of the things that California desperately needs. So I have an opportunity to actually sit at the table with CEOs, titans in their industry that are solving local, national, and global problems in energy and technology and education and healthcare. And I get a unique perspective. For the last 20 years, I've been working diligently in the healthcare field, working on AI technology that will help us predict pre-existing conditions before they occur so that we can keep people healthier longer. We're working with inventors and engineers that are creating the next generation of energy products, like the guy that invented the ability to harness the power of the sun, convert it into hydrogen, and the byproduct of those hydrogen turbines is atomic water, which is clean drinking water. Those are the type of people that I work with. Those are the type of people that I can pick up the phone and call. Those are the type of people that will be on my committees. That ingenuity, that innovation, those inventors, those engineers, those CEOs, are at my disposal. I didn't know why, but I realize now that God was aligning all of these things for a purpose and a plan for a time such as this.
So briefly, you had mentioned censorship, and I want to kind of stay on that topic, especially being that you're in the advertising world where communication is really kind of what your business is. Being that I know, at least for my generation, I know a lot of other generations get their news from social media. What are your thoughts about kind of some of the censorship that you're seeing on social media platforms?
Under my administration, it would be stopped. So if you think about this for a second, these tech companies exist and they sell your data. They want your eyes, they want your ears, and they want your money. But for some reason, they don't want your voice. And so these tech companies need to be regulated, and I know it's an important aspect, especially for your age demographic and what we do, but censorship on any level needs to be banned. And if these companies have to be punished and fined and run out of California, then I'll be the one to do it then.
All right, so being in advertising, you understand kind of the strategy that goes behind certain campaigns. And there has been a recent political campaign around vaccine incentive programs that you feel very strongly about.
Yeah.
Can you please explain your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I want anybody in here consider themselves a minority? Raise your hand. Yeah. So just want you to understand, there is a science and a strategy around those campaigns. They're specifically targeting our minority communities. They're specifically targeting low-income populations. What they're doing is they're trying to buy your compliance. And, you know, in advertising, we do behavioral science, and we understand the theories behind why people do what they do. There's a reason why they're selecting that music. There's a reason why they're leveraging those brands. There's a reason why they're using money. There's a whole science behind what's being done. It's calculated, it's targeted, and it's oppressive, and it needs to stop. So.
So, being that it is a vaccine incentive program, I know you also have very strong opinions on how the current administration has handled the vaccine situation.
Sure.
Specifically, maybe with the vaccine passports, for example. What are your thoughts, and how do you feel about that?
So vaccines should be a choice, not a mandate, period. It's simple. So half the people I know, half the people I work with have gotten the vaccine. My position is simple. If you want a vaccine, if you want a treatment, then have it. You want two, have two. You want 5, more power to you. But do not impose a forced compliance on free-thinking citizens that have chosen against it. And let's be clear, vaccine passports and digital vaccine passports are just a form of regulation and discrimination. That's all it is. So if we allow that to happen now, then we're just steps away from them being able to discriminate against anything, race, color, social decisions, religion. So it needs to stop, it needs to end. I truly believe that. And by the way, in my time working with physicians and working with the healthcare community, you know, my particular position on this is also that the medicines that we're talking about are experimental drugs. So the idea that you're going to force compliance of an experimental drug is just absurd. It's a form of communism if you think about it. So I believe we need to be a free-thinking society. You should have the options, you should have the choices, and the healthcare decisions should be made at home and not in Sacramento.
So you mentioned communism, and I know that plays a huge factor in kind of your story and how it shaped you, specifically with your grandfather, my great-great-grandfather. Can you explain a little bit more as to like that whole story and how that shaped you to feel so passionate about kind of the communistic principles that you're seeing in California today?
I didn't know too much about communism growing up. My father left when he was 6 months old, and I knew communism was bad, but I never experienced it. Over the last 4 years, we've had the opportunity to actually visit Cuba probably about 7 different times. And you're met face to face with what communism actually means. And what communism is completely stripping you of your ability to be free thinking, free moving, free acting citizens. Some of the most beautiful people I've met live in Cuba. And a communist government, a Cuban government, Cuban government has complete control over the education system. So they start to indoctrinate their kids at kindergarten all the way up through college. They have complete control over there's no capitalism, but they have complete control over your ability to make a living. They tell you where you can shop, where you can't shop. If you do happen to be able to open a business, the government owns it. They tell you when to open, when to close. They shut down churches. For decades, there was no religion in Cuba. Churches are now opening, but only as museums for tourists. And they control the media. They have full and absolute control over everything that you see and hear. It's complete mind control. When I think about that, and I think about California, I look at these last 12 months, just kind of frame that for yourself, a place that has overreaching control over healthcare, controls the media, indoctrinating our kids at school. I mean, California's looking more and more like Cuba than it's ever been before. And my grandfather today would be rolling over in his grave if he realized that the country he ran to is starting to look like the country he ran from.
So I know we touched on vaccines, and if anyone's visited the site, they know that you have 12 points that you're kind of basing your whole campaign on. One of those 12 points, besides the vaccine, is your standpoint on businesses. Can you talk about a little bit your thoughts on businesses in California?
Sure. As a business owner, I truly believe that all businesses are essential to the people that they employ and the communities they serve. We've seen businesses strangled here in California, and we've seen a mass exodus of businesses. Companies are leaving. And it's important that we understand this. If you choke out business in California and you have big corporations leave, they take their jobs with them. When high net worth individuals leave because of our taxes, they leave with their tax-paying dollars. So this whole idea of, being real restrictive of business, taxing the wealthy, overtaxing the wealthy, what's going to happen is if businesses leave and high net worth individuals leave, who's going to get left picking up those tax bills? The middle class. So it's this false sense of reality that they give you, thinking that, hey, by punishing big corporations, we're really helping the middle class. No, the last thing that we want is to be a state that's not business friendly, because once they're gone, the middle class will forever reap the ramifications of those decisions. So I'm all about business. My grandfather, when he came to this country, started a metal finishing business, a very blue collar line of work. My father, to this day, 45, 50 years later, still runs that company, still operates in Los Angeles, California, in an empowerment zone right next to the projects. They employ good, hardworking individuals. I truly believe that we need to protect our businesses.
So one of the other points on your site that is very important given the time that we're in now, I was just at a restaurant the other day, and I had heard the waiter say, "Isn't Gavin awesome? He's just given us our freedom back." And I know that that is disgusting and deceptive because it was never his to take in the first place. And so I want to ask you, as someone who stands on a platform for freedom and for liberty, what are your whole thoughts about just taking something that shouldn't have been taken and where we're at today with that?
Yeah, to your point, so they took from us what was never theirs to have. So the idea, correct. So the idea that they're going to give it back to us and that we should somehow celebrate is completely absurd. And the thing that you should be most scared about is that what's going to happen is it's all calculated and strategic. So all of these regulations and restrictions that are being lifted are being done so at an appropriate time, months before a recall, because the idea and the hope is that all of you here will have amnesia. You're going to forget about the hardship. You'll forget about the restrictions. You'll forget about what's happening at schools and businesses, and that somehow you'll fall over this. You'll have this euphoric state of pleasure and thankfulness that you were given your freedoms back that should have never been taken. And that's the most important thing that we have to remember right now. Do not forget. Do not forget the year we just had or the years before that. Don't forget where we've come from, and don't forget that while things may seem a little bit different in the next few months, it doesn't mean that he should stay in office. He needs to go.
Yeah, one people don't realize the power that local government has until they decide to abuse it. And I think that is such a strong statement, and I feel like if people forget about that, it's not good, you know? So moving on to one of the other points that you have on your site that's very important to you, and I know it's very important to a lot of mothers, is their education system and how the education system has affected their children.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think our education system and our schools, that is the biggest battleground right now that we need to focus on. Businesses, sure, freedoms, absolutely, but what they're trying to do by indoctrinating our children is inexcusable, and it needs to stop. Instead of teaching our children about what unites us, all they do is indoctrinate them with what divides us. Critical race theory, the idea that we're sending our innocent children off to school and they're having their sexuality be questioned, that they're being put in situations and having conversations that belong in the home. There's an attack on our country, there's an attack on our state, and there's an attack on our children. And we need to stand against it. We need to rise against. We need to acknowledge that it exists, and we need to fight it. Everyone at every community level across the state.
So one of the last points I want to touch on, and it might be the most important to you, which is your standpoint on faith and family. What is your thought and opinion on faith and family and how it applies to you as a potential governor candidate?
So faith is the most important thing that I have in my life. I wouldn't be married 24 years if it wasn't for our faith. We wouldn't have been able to get through everything that we've gotten through as a family. This company exists because of my faith. I think that California has lost its soul. I think that everyone here, as you heard the speakers today, there's a connecting thread here. God wants to reclaim California. It's actually even bigger than California. I think he wants to reclaim the planet, and I think he wants to reclaim America, but I believe that it's going to start in California. I believe that we're in a battle, and I believe that this, like I said in the beginning, this is not about politics. There's something bigger at work here. There's something bigger at play. There's more at stake. And we talk about it, our pastor talks about it all the time. There are a lot of people that believe that we should just this is kind of signs of the end, and we should just sit back and just let this happen. God doesn't want to come back for a broken church. He wants to come back for a healthy bride. And I think the window is small, and I think the time is now. I wasn't the right candidate for 20 years ago, and I may not be the right candidate for 20 years from now, but I do believe that I'm the right candidate for today.
So the last question I have is a question you taught me to ask. So I'm going to kind of switch it and throw it to you. So see how you like it. So every time we're on a client call at work, you tell me not to get off the phone without having the client first define what success looks like. So I want to ask you as our last question, what does success look like for you?
As it pertains to this campaign, yeah. So success for this, first of all, success for me is honoring God and my family and all of you who have supported this effort. So first and foremost, if I've left nothing out on the field and I've exhausted every single resource, ounce of energy that I have to honor you guys, the support you've given me and my family, God, that will be a success. But a success for California looks like getting in office. A success looks like having us comfortable and feeling safe with sending our kids to public schools. The ability for us to make our own healthcare decisions and not be forced into compliance. Businesses being open, churches never closing again. All of those things look like success for me.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to open it up to a little Q&A now for those who had submitted questions. Thank you. Submitted questions either through digital or wrote them down here. So first question is from Joshua. What turned you to God? Starting off big.
Sure. So I was raised, my parents split when I was 5. I lived with my mom, Christian family, Christian upbringing. God was always a part of my life, up until a moment in time, 2 months after we gave birth to this guy right here. Always had God, I always had access to God. I always prayed, and I always had him a part of my life. But he became the central figure of my life. One night in San Diego, Christian was 2 months old. It was the first time that Jen and I had actually taken him out of the house after he had been born. We went down to San Diego. I was driving. Jen was in the back seat with Christian. And I'll never forget it. I can still hear it today. I was driving, and she let out the most horrific scream I'd ever heard. She said, "The baby's not breathing." I pulled over. She jumps out of the car. In a panic, she starts praying. I jump into the passenger seat, and I remove him from his car seat. He was lifeless. He wasn't breathing. He wasn't moving. I tried everything that I could to resuscitate him. I tried to pinch him. I tried to poke him. I tried to prod him. I was practically ripping flesh off of his body just to get him to react to me. No heartbeat, no breathing. So I began to conduct CPR on him. And if anybody knows anything about CPR, you know that an adult is not supposed to perform CPR on an infant child. You can blow out their lungs. I didn't know that. So all I could do was try. So I had him in my arms, and I started to give him CPR, which, if there was any life in him, should have extinguished it, because you just can't do that. We were desperate. Those moments, those seconds, those minutes, however long it was, seemed like an eternity. It was playing out in slow motion. And there came a point in time when I realized I just could not do anymore. There's nothing more that I can do. So there was just this natural reaction in me to just take him and lift him up, lifeless, lifted him up, and I basically just gave him to God. And I said, "He's no longer my own. I give him freely to you." And I released him just with everything in me. And no sooner did I do that, did he start breathing. Jen jumps in the, I wouldn't believe it if I wasn't there. Let me just tell you. So we jump in the car, we go to the hospital, we spend 2 days in a San Diego hospital, separated from our families, young, and we had an encounter with God that changed our life. Because we knew at that point in time, there was no opportunity anymore to be half in, half out. It was either he was going to be the central part of our life, or we were going to continue to struggle in ways like this. And we were so grateful and so thankful that we had our son back, that we gladly and wholeheartedly went all in. And so 24 years ago, put him at the center of everything we do. Now he's the nucleus of this entire family, of this entire business, of my entire being. And that's pretty, you know that story, but that's pretty much how it came to be.
All right, next question from...
You were there.
Yeah, all right, so should have asked that one last. Anyways, a good question from Irvin. What is your position on the Second Amendment?
I think half my friends in here today are packing, so... Very true story. We have 5 inalienable rights, right? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. The other two that are not talked about much are the ability to be a free-thinking society and to defend ourselves. And so I wholeheartedly believe in the Second Amendment. We've purchased more guns this last year than in my entire life. So yes, I'm a big Second Amendment advocate for sure.
Cool. All right, we have a question from Timothy. What is your stance on religious freedom and vaccine passports?
Yeah, I think I covered that. Obviously, my family comes from a place where you don't have religious freedoms, and you don't have the ability to make healthcare decisions of your own. And so I think my stance on that is clear. Yeah, absolutely, individual choice for sure.
Awesome. And the last question we have today is from Kevin. Will you please elaborate on point 12, parentheses, homelessness, that is found on your website?
Sure. That's a big problem in California, as you know. Jen and I have had the opportunity of working with many organizations on that particular topic, and we know how that lends and marries to the foster care system, and we were foster care parents as well. So it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Government likes to reinvent the wheel with your money. At the end of the day, that's what they like to do. They have problems, they want to attack them, and they want to reinvent the wheel utilizing taxpayer dollars. The wheel does not have to be reinvented. Right now, across the state, from San Diego to Sacramento, there are good organizations right now with feet on the street that have been mobilized, that are with churches, nonprofits, good people, social workers, mental health workers, people ready to clothe, feed, and house homeless. What the government needs to do, what California needs to do, is activate those organizations, scale those organizations like you would a corporation or a company, fund those organizations and back and bring more awareness about those organizations. So I wouldn't reinvent the wheel. I'd support those organizations that are already doing the real work right now.
Well, that's all I have. I just want to say I love you. I'm so proud of you, and I'm stoked that we get to do this together. And that's it for us here today. How do you want to close this?
Yeah, I don't know.
That was great, wasn't it? Great family. So I get hit up all the time about how you can help, how you can join the movement. And we have came from just telling your friends to fundraisers. Doesn't matter. Anything works. Any ounce of effort is great for us. And it's incredible. What do we launch this?
Yeah, so we've talked to political strategists. We've talked to people that have run political campaigns before. And they like to tell you why you can't do something, why you shouldn't do something, why this is going to be impossible. I happen to like those odds. My entire life is impossible. So, you know, it's really about getting people activated. What we're going to do, we're going to take a non-traditional route to getting this done. We're going to activate the minority community. We're going to activate the churches. We call it the whisper. We need everybody in this room to whisper to somebody else that they know of influence and have them whisper to somebody else and continue to build momentum and spread the word so that by the time they see us coming, it's too late.
You gave our strategy away.
That's
We
God's
gave our
strategy, man.
Yeah. Me and Sal came to Anthony with a 5-month plan, a strategy that we know that works, and I swear we've completed it in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And we're seeing over 700% growth in his social media following. He started at 200 followers when we first talked to Anthony. Now he's almost at 2,000. It's literally 2.5 weeks. And look at all the people that are here. It's absolutely great, right? Well, yeah. But thank you guys. If anything helps, get in touch. Please spread the word. Talk to your friends, family. And Anthony, you got anything else you want to close out?
I just want to thank you guys for coming. Those that have come because you are already supporting us, thank you. Those that came and were on the fence and wanted to know what we're about, thank you for coming and checking it out. Hopefully we've convinced you. And those that came already knowing that you didn't want to participate, I think God moved in you too. So hopefully we can connect on your way out. I'm the real deal. I have nothing to hide. I'm going to be completely transparent. I'm coming to expose the truth. We talked about it. Anybody who will listen to me understands that the vision I have in my head is that I'm going into Sacramento like a Trojan horse, but that God's going to move through this and he's going to do his thing. So just stay in touch. Keep in touch with what the campaign is doing.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you. Right on, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you so much.
We're going to be spreading the word.
Thank you so much.